You might flinch at bright lights and brace against loud sounds. You might replay conversations in your head for hours, picking apart every word you said. And the stress of it all leaves you feeling burnt out. As a sensitive person or an empath or someone with neurodivergent sensitivities, you know what a burden this world can be. I do. And you might even feel as though you are too sensitive to cope with it all. But the truth is, you are not too sensitive. You just haven't been taught how to cope with stress as a sensitive person. So, in this lesson, I'm going to tell you the truth about how stress impacts your sensitive system and walk you through an exercise that will change your relationship with it altogether. First, we need a better definition of stress. So let's expand your definition. What is stress? Stress is everything. Most of us have been taught to think about stress in a way that's relatively incomplete. We think that stress is that feeling we get when we're overwhelmed at work or stuck in traffic or dealing with a difficult person. We're either stressed or we're not. So stress has sort of become this negative thing that happens occasionally, and we're supposed to overcome it in some way. But if my research as a stress and trauma specialist has taught me anything, it's that stress is so much more. In a very simple way, stress is pressure, right? So stress occurs when something, anything in your life changes, and that change puts pressure on you to change along with it. So stress is pressure to change. And in that way, stress is everything, right? Because pressure comes in all different forms, big and small, pleasant and unpleasant, internal and external. So let's walk through a few examples. If you're getting a promotion, that's a good thing, right? But that's also stress. The promotion introduces new energy into your life, and you need to adapt to it by, say, learning different skills and leveling up your game. If your child comes home from school, that's also stress. Their presence introduces new energy into your day, and you need to change, maybe by paying attention to them and talking to them and taking care of them. If you're feeling hungry, that's stress, your internal state, right? Your body is changing and pressuring you to eat something. Receiving a compliment, that's also stress, even though it's good, right? Your relationship has changed and there's pressure for you to receive good energy. Alternatively, like reading a harsh comment online, that's also stress. Your social environment is changing and pressuring you to conform. So anytime you encounter new energy that places pressure on some part of your life, that's stress. And this is exactly why I say stress is everything. As long as you're alive, you're experiencing the pressure to change. And as long as you're experiencing change, you're experiencing stress. Now, before you panic, because this is how I felt, right? You look at this and it's like, great. So life is just one big stressor. Well, technically, yeah. Yeah, it is. But that's not actually a bad thing. Stress isn't the enemy. It's actually something that can help us evolve. Because as the world evolves around us, it puts pressure on us to keep up with it, to keep changing, to keep evolving, to keep hopefully becoming our highest self. Change is inevitable, so stress is inevitable too. The real question isn't, how do I avoid stress? Or how do I eliminate stress? Because you can't. The real question is, how can I help my system process stress? And this question is much more difficult to answer for sensitive souls, right? Your sensitive system perceives more, which means it also perceives pressure more quickly and easily. And that pressure can do all sorts of things. It can make us really anxious and agitated. It can sort of hijack our system and motivate us to do or say things we normally wouldn't authentically do. And it can really build up and make us feel overwhelmed in a very short amount of time. Like the path from I'm totally okay to I'm totally overwhelmed is usually a quick route for sensitive souls. So before you learn how to better process stress, you need to first understand your sensitive system at a much deeper level. So we're going to walk through a more detailed anatomy of your sensitive system. It's kind of the manual that I wish I would have gotten at the beginning of my life. And then we'll do a self-awareness exercise to help you build your insight into how stress impacts it. So, first, let me give you that better manual for your sensitive system. Now, you probably already understand that your system is made up of a body, mind, and soul. You might also understand that relationships, right, with objects and others are a part of your system too. But that map is not detailed enough. And I found out this the hard way many, many times in my life. Like for much of my life, I didn't even know I was a sensitive soul. And by the time I figured it out, my system was incredibly burnt out. At the time, like at the height of this, I was a trauma therapist seeing clients and teaching students all day. I was exposed to a lot of stress and a lot of pressure. And although I tried my hardest to care for myself, nothing really worked. And I got really sick. Long story short, it turns out that I wasn't the problem. I was taking care of myself in the best way that I knew how. But what I didn't know was how complex and interdimensional my sensitive system actually was. So, without that understanding, I couldn't care for the many levels that I had. So, over the course of many years of research, I built a 10-dimensional map of being human that sort of better breaks down the many layers of our experiences. So, I've been teaching it to clients and students ever since, and now I'm sharing it with you. So I'll pull up that map in a moment, but let me just help you understand. I didn't just make up this map. I discovered these 10 dimensions across decades of studying neuroscience, Vedic sciences, so yoga, right, quantum mechanics, and metaphysics. And if you all want, just let me know in the comments. I'll go into how all these fields come together to create this map in another video if you're curious. But for now, I just want to show you a better picture of your system so you can understand yourself better and stress a little bit more. So, like I said, there are 10 different dimensions of your system that can experience pressure from stress. Let's look at them now. We'll go through them from the higher ethereal dimensions of the soul to the lower earthly dimensions of separation. So, let's start at the top. Dimension 10 contains your soul self. The soul self is the dimension of you that exists beyond the rules of time and space. Here, there is no past or future, and there's barely any separation between you and infinite source energy. You exist as limitless potential and inhabit the expansive nature of your spirit in this dimension. So, this is where ancestral communication, angelic messages, and every divine interaction with your spirituality, this is where it occurs. The soul self deals with desiring, not the primal, programmed, impulsive desires of your physical self, but the truest desires of your spirit, like the ones that exist before logic or circumstance shape them into something smaller. Mediumship, right? The ability to be a medium in a lot of ways is what allows you to feel energy in the soul self. It's true, there are people who are professional mediums and maybe who are particularly inclined to mediumship, and they have incredible access to the 10th dimension. But we all have a sense of mediumship, and this is what allows us all to communicate with the divine. When energy in this 10th dimension is balanced and aligned, you feel a deep sense of wholeness because you understand that you are part of source energy. But when energy in this dimension is unbalanced or misaligned for you, you'll feel disconnected from anything larger than yourself. Dimension 9 contains your temporal self. The temporal self is the dimension of you that transcends time itself, holding every piece of knowledge and information and experience that ever was, is, or will be. If we look at yogic philosophy for a moment, it might help us understand. In dimension 9, we access this energy through our third eye chakra. So every lifetime of knowledge you carry lives here, and actually every lifetime that's ever existed beyond you actually lives here. So from this dimension, you can look back and draw on what you've already experienced, or look ahead and choose to forecast something new. The temporal self deals with knowing, so specifically intuition, right? That's the kind of information that lives here. So intuition arrives before logic ever catches up to it. So your sense of insight and intuition is what allows you to feel energy in the temporal self. When energy in this dimension is balanced and aligned, you feel wisdom. But when energy in this dimension is unbalanced and misaligned, you feel disconnected from your own intuition and spend a lot of time doubting what you already know. Dimension 8 contains your seeing self. The seeing self is the dimension of you where time collapses into a single point, right now. This dimension determines what you see and where your focus goes, anchoring you fully into the present moment. The seeing self deals with ideation. So your ability to hold attention on something, right, that's in the present moment, undistracted by the past or the future. So sight is largely connected to this dimension, both what your eyes take in and what your inner vision perceives. So even the pictures we only see privately in the darkness of our minds. When energy in this dimension is balanced and aligned, you feel wonder. You're open to what is and can release what is not. But when energy in this dimension is unbalanced and misaligned, it's difficult to have a consistent, sort of regulated, consistent, like, right, present. It's really difficult to stay in the present if you have like difficulty with energy in dimension 8. Dimension 7 contains your communicating self. The communicating self is the dimension of you that hears and interprets sound. So the noise around you, but also the voice inside you. So if you're reading silently to yourself or you're thinking to yourself, right, that's the 7th dimension. Language itself is born here. And so your ability to sense whether something feels true or right is also here. This is your resonance system at work. So that there's a neurobiological mechanism that tells you whether you're in sync with what's being communicated. And that is this dimension. The communicating self deals with intersubjectivity, so the understanding that passes between you and another person when communicating. So you and I are actually connected in this 7th dimension, right? I am communicating and you are hearing. And I'm also hearing myself too. So hearing is the sense that actually allows you to feel the energy in the communicating self, both internally, what you hear, right, within your mind, and also obviously externally. So this may involve listening to a sound, either your voice or someone else's, but it also, like I've been saying, involves the thoughts and the language that you hear silently in your own head, which can come from observing things or experiencing things or reflecting on things or, even interpreting somebody's nonverbal behavior. That's communication. Now, when energy in this dimension is balanced and aligned, you feel welcome, right? Like the sense that what you've said or heard has truly landed. And that's what's being communicated, like, and it's received, right? Like, so feeling welcome is, I am received. This is received. I am receiving, rather than being dismissed. When energy in this dimension is unbalanced or misaligned, right? When you're not coping with the pressure or the stress here, it's possible that you'll feel unheard, unwelcomed, or really unsure of what's true and just kind of going by what everybody else says is true. Dimension 6 contains your electromagnetic self. The electromagnetic self is the dimension of you often called the aura or the biofield. So it's the metaphysical electromagnetic layer that other people feel before you even have said a single word. The electromagnetic self deals with intention, what you're reaching towards, caring for, or trying to manifest. So your sense of affinity is what allows you to feel energy in the electromagnetic self. So affinity is the pull that tells you what to draw close and what you're leaning toward. It's what you're attracted to and what you're attracting toward you. When energy in this dimension is balanced and aligned, you'll feel clear about your embodied sense of like your direction and your will and what you care about. When energy in this dimension is unbalanced and misaligned, you'll feel pulled in directions that don't feel aligned and tangled in energy that is not yours, which is, I think, a very common experience for sensitive souls like us. Dimension 5 contains your communal self. So the communal self is the dimension of you that holds everyone and everything making up your unique community. So the people you love, the car you drive, the home you live in, the children you raise, the job you choose, the ground beneath your feet. The communal self deals with interconnection. So the network of relationships that make up your life. Other people and objects within this network might be very close to you and highly interconnected in your life, but others also might be further away and less connected. So for example, for me right now, I am very connected to my plants and my chair and the camera, right? This is objects, and then it's also others, like my dog who's barking in the background. So your sense of attunement is what allows you to feel energy in the communal self. So community is detected by attunement. And that's the ongoing moment to moment sort of read of whether you're in sync with the people around you. It answers the question, do I belong here? When energy in this dimension is balanced and aligned, we feel we-ness or true belonging and partnership. But when energy in this dimension is unbalanced and misaligned, you feel isolated and alone, like even when you're surrounded by others, which I think is also another common experience for sensitive souls, like feeling alone and isolated even in a crowded room. Dimension 4 contains your chemical self. The chemical self is the dimension of you where hormones, neurotransmitters, and body chemistry shape your lived experience. This isn't the cells or structures of your physical body, like quite yet. It's the chemical cocktail that comes together to eventually form that body. Now, the chemical self deals with influence, the chemical push and pull happening inside your cells that shifts your mood, your drive, your appetite, even like your thoughts, feelings, and actions can be influenced without your conscious permission. So, for example, if your gut health isn't great, the bacteria are going to be creating chemical reactions that actually can impact your mood, right? So, that's one example. You can feel energy in the chemical self through your impulses. So, the subtle internal shifts you feel, but can't always name or explain. These sometimes show up as like cravings or yearnings or like a pull to do something that you may not expect. When energy in this dimension is balanced and aligned, you feel wellness. But when energy in this dimension is unbalanced and misaligned, you can feel foreign in your own body, sort of at the mercy of chemistry you didn't choose. Dimension 3 contains your physical self. The physical self is the dimension most of us already know. Your cells, your organs, your tissue, the physical body you live inside. So the physical self has everything to do with form. So the physical self deals with inhabitants, which is your right to fully exist, to take up space in the world, and to be a sovereign, separate being. Your sense of ownership is what allows you to feel energy in the physical self. It's like the felt sense that this body, exactly as it is owned by you. Now, when energy in this dimension is balanced and aligned, you actually feel wealth because you have a physical sort of representation of the divine abundance that's meant for you. But when energy in this dimension is unbalanced or misaligned, like when you are made to feel like you don't own your body, you can feel really disconnected from your body and your life, as though you're kind of like a visitor or, a guest inside it rather than its owner. Dimension 2 contains your ego self. The ego self is the dimension of you that negotiates your safety and survival in this lifetime. Your ego creates relational contracts with others and objects. So it solidifies your connections so that you can rely on them. These contracts are sometimes spoken and conscious, but sometimes they're very unspoken and very unconscious. Overall, relational contracts at a very basic level say, if I do this, you will do that. If I do this, then you'll pay me X amount, right? If I do this work, you'll pay me X amount. If I make money, you'll take care of the children. If I clean the house, then you'll mow the lawn. If I don't confront you, then you won't get angry and hurt me. If I carry the emotional weight of this relationship, then you won't leave me, right? Some of those sound familiar. Those are like contracts of sensitive souls that are quite common, and I know because I've had them. Now, obviously, not all relational contracts are balanced and just. Like, not all of them are good for our sense of abundance and fulfilling our potential, but every single one of them, even the ones that we resent and don't like, they are all designed to keep us safe. So the roles, rules, and beliefs of your family, of your community, of your culture, they live here in the second dimension, and they become the foundation upon which your life is built, but it's also the precursor to the next dimension, which is action. So the contracts that your ego self forms largely influence the next dimension of what you do. So the ego self deals with investment, what you're willing to commit to and what you are not willing to commit to. And your sense of safety is what allows you to feel energy in the ego self, or, the level of investment you and others have in your life. When energy in this dimension is balanced and aligned, you feel worth. It shows up as value. You feel valuable, worth protecting, worth investing in, right? When energy in this dimension is unbalanced and misaligned, you feel unsafe, and your sense of value becomes conditional on the contracts that you've made. Dimension 1 contains your acting self. The acting self is the dimension of you that's most individual and separate. So, like your talents, your gifts, the things that you do only the way you do it. In dimension 1, you take actions, and these actions, ideally, right, if every dimension above you is aligned, this dimension is designed to allow you to fill your divine potential. So, dimension 1 is all about fulfillment and making an impact. The acting self deals with impact, what you do, what you say, how you do it, and how you say it. Your sense of accomplishment is what allows you to feel energy in the acting self. So, accomplishment is the felt sense of effort landing somewhere real, right? Like what I did made a difference. When energy in this dimension is balanced and aligned, you feel wherewithal. So you can keep going because you feel like this does matter. This is working. It is, I have the resilience to keep going on my path because you feel accomplished and effective. When energy in this dimension is unbalanced, you might feel stuck, kind of full of potential and nowhere to put it. Like you might not feel like anything you do matters. So what's the point? Because I never get to make an impact, right? Now, I built this map because it's what I needed to understand myself as a sensitive soul. Like I was feeling really lost, really overwhelmed, could not understand myself. So I built myself this map and I shared it with my clients and students. And as I did, it helped them understand themselves better too. And hopefully it gives you some clarity about the many dimensions of your experiences as well. So this is an interdimensional map of energy, basically, right? All day, every day, you exist within these 10 dimensions. So there's always new energy flowing in and out of them, creating pressure for you to adapt. And that brings us back to stress. Because energy is always flowing in and out of the many dimensions of your life, it means that you're experiencing some kind of stress and pressure in each of these 10 dimensions all the time, some more than others at any particular moment. The problem is that most of us aren't given this 10-dimensional map when we're born. Instead, we're told we have a body and a mind, and if we're lucky, we also learn about our soul. But for the most part, we humans are trained to only focus on like the 3D physical selves. This is like being given a manual for a 4-door sedan and then being asked to drive a spaceship. It doesn't go well. Centralizing your physical experiences means that whenever you experience stress or pressure or any change in any of the other 9 dimensions, you will most likely be told you're overreacting, you're being overly emotional, you're being illogical, or, you're too sensitive. But that's not true. None of those things are true. Sensitive souls aren't overreacting or being overly emotional or being illogical. We're just more self-aware, interdimensionally self-aware. All we're doing is paying attention to more aspects of the human experience because our sensitive systems allow us to perceive those dimensions. So we naturally perceive more, take in more, and feel more. And this in itself is not a problem. And I would actually argue that it's a superpower, right? Like being able to perceive and feel more also means that I have more power to transmute energy, to alchemize, and to optimize the energy in my life. But in a world that's focused only on what we can touch and hold in our hands, sensitivity to, for example, the biofield, or to sound, or to light, or to messages from our soul are sort of written off as insane. So many of the sensitive citizens on this planet start to believe that. We start to question our own perceptions. And if we do this long enough, eventually we learn to ignore the pressure we're feeling from the other dimensions of our system. We ignore the subtle changes we experience across all 10 dimensions. And when we ignore change, pressure, and the stress that it creates, that pressure builds up. And eventually our system shuts down. For example, instead of disconnecting from the people who tell us we're overreacting, we disconnect from ourselves. And this disconnection from our own system has serious consequences. The system just stops working. It gets sick, it shuts down. And that's why so many of us spend all our free time recovering in front of the TV alone, even when we would prefer to be with others. That's why so many of us stop seeking help for our constant fatigue, because we can only hear there's nothing wrong with you for so long. And that's why so many of us feel out of place in this world to which we have a right to belong. The truth is, all humans are 10-dimensional beings, and our experiences move far beyond the physical. There is lots of evidence from many different fields that tell us this is true. As a sensitive soul, you already know this deep down. Like, no matter how disconnected, overwhelmed, and isolated you may have become, I am certain that you are watching this video because there is a part of you that knows without a doubt that you are not crazy, you are not sick, you are not broken. And hopefully this map gives that part of you a better picture of the many areas of your life impacted by stress. So you can feel more validated to care for yourself and to regulate your system and respond to that pressure you feel in all these dimensions all the time. And that brings us to our self-awareness exercise. So let's do a short reflection to help you get to know yourself better. Look at these 10 dimensions. Which of them were you already aware of before this lesson? Right? Which of them already feel familiar? You might have already been paying attention to your physical self and your acting self, for example. That means that you're probably already attending to the stress you're experiencing in those dimensions, right? And that's great. My job in these videos on this channel is to help you deepen the practices that are already working for you. Now look at the 10 dimensions again. Which of them are new to you? Which have you never heard of or thought of before? Have you been paying attention to your biofield? Have you been paying attention to your chemistry? For a long time, I didn't know that I had to pay attention to those things. So I didn't do things like clear my energy field, and I didn't pay attention to the artificial stuff in my food. So if you're looking at the 10 dimensions thinking, I don't pay attention to 80% of it, please know you're not alone. Like, I had to do a ton of research to discover these parts of myself. Simply noticing the dimensions that are unfamiliar to you is a huge accomplishment because it allows you to get to know yourself in a more accurate, empowered way. So as part of this like self-reflective exercise, let's actually dive a little deeper. Of the dimensions you did not know, choose just one and start paying attention to that dimension for the next week. Now, of course, you could pick more than one, but I recommend that you choose one at a time and then come back to this video and choose a different one the next time. That is a more manageable way to integrate change across your system. So over the course of the next week, just notice the one dimension of you and allow yourself the opportunity to get to know yourself a little bit. Right? So for example, if you choose to explore your communal self, you might pay more attention to the relationships you have with others and objects. Which ones fill you up? Which ones drain you? Which ones do you want more of? Which do you want less of? Like, are there physical objects in your life that just cause frustration, right? You don't have to do anything, just notice. Or maybe you'll explore your soul self. You might pay more attention to what you really want and what really is in your soul for what you're going to manifest in this lifetime. Maybe you don't have any sense of your desires and you notice that. Or alternatively, maybe you spend a lot of time fantasizing that your life would be different. Like I said, there's no need to change these dimensions. Like, you don't need to actually do something. Just allow yourself to see them and to spend time with them. And this all by itself will be enough. That's the biggest takeaway from this lesson. You cannot manage stress as a sensitive soul until you become aware of the many dimensions in which stress exists. So keep coming back to this video over and over. Switch up the dimensions you pay attention to each week, and in time, you'll have a stronger, more self-aware relationship with yourself as an interdimensional human being. I hope this was helpful. Thank you so much for being here. I love being able to connect to sensitive souls, and I am very excited for what lies ahead. To keep learning here, you can watch this video next. Until next time, my fellow sensitive soul, take care of you.